Welcome to your Grade 8 Civics Explainer for Unit 1, Lesson 2. Today, we're exploring the ideas behind constitutional democracy. We're going to unpack these core concepts, but keep our focus entirely on how these systems actually function in everyday life.
We've got a clear roadmap today. First, a school council model. Second, the 5 core democratic ideas. Third, mapping those to constitutional text. Fourth, correcting a common misconception. Fifth, checking your understanding. And finally, a recap and transfer prompt.
Section 1. A school council model. Let's start with something you're already super familiar with to make sense of these big political theories. Check out this created school council model. It shows exactly how a hypothetical student government needs serious structure to actually be fair. Think about it. You vote for your leaders. Those leaders are given completely separate jobs. The rules they make apply to absolutely everyone, and they have strict boundaries. Like, they definitely cannot control what you eat for lunch.
Moving to Section 2, 5 core democratic ideas. Let's see how that school model translates into the actual foundation of civics. So, because we use representative decision-making, the council only gets to operate with the consent of the governed. What that really means is their power exists for one reason: because you, the student body, voted for it. You gave your consent by electing those specific peers to speak for you.
And to prevent a massive power trip, the council uses a separation of powers. By making sure the person planning the school dance isn't the same person holding all the budget money, the whole system stays balanced.
Now, because these representatives wield actual power, we absolutely need limited government to, say, keep them out of your lunchbox. All of this is held together by the rule of law. That just means nobody is above the rules, not even the council president. These 5 ideas literally lock together to form a safe, working system.
Section 3. Mapping to constitutional text. Let's take our hypothetical created school council model and map it directly onto the real historical texts that built the U.S. government.
You know, it's pretty amazing, but the exact problems you'd face trying to run a middle school council are the exact same structural challenges solved by our founding documents. Let's match up our 5 ideas with the actual transcriptions from the National Archives.
Just like your vote gives the student council its authority, the Declaration of Independence lays down the law that legitimate government power only comes from the consent of the governed. It's written right there as the foundational vision of the whole country. And just as you elect your classmates to speak for you, Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution guarantees representative decision-making. It outlines exactly how the people get to choose their members of Congress to make decisions on their behalf.
Then, to enforce that separation of powers we talked about, the Constitution deliberately chops up the government's authority into 3 completely distinct branches across Articles 1, 2, and 3: legislative, executive, and judicial. That way, no single person gets to hold all the cards. And to ensure we have limited government, the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights draws a really strict boundary. It explicitly lists out things the government simply cannot do, placing a hard limit on their reach into your personal freedoms.
Tying the whole shebang together is the rule of law. Cemented right in Article 6, the text makes it crystal clear that the Constitution itself is the ultimate authority. The rules apply to everyone, and no leader is ever above the supreme law of the land. Section 4. Correcting a common misconception. Before we go any further, we really need to clear up a major misunderstanding about how these documents function.
It is a huge misconception to think that just one single document, like, say, the Declaration of Independence, does all the heavy lifting and proves every single democratic practice we have.
The reality, which is guided by the C3 framework for social studies, is that we have to view these sources as an interlocking, connected system. The Declaration sets the big vision, the Constitution builds the actual machinery to make it work, and the Bill of Rights applies the necessary limits. They are a team.
Section 5. Checking your understanding. Let's do 2 rapid self-check questions to see how well you're connecting these dots.
Here is your first question. If the created school council model sets a rule that the council president is not allowed to force students to join a specific club, which core democratic idea is this demonstrating? I'll give you about 8 seconds to lock in your answer. Think about the boundaries being placed here. If a leader is explicitly told they are not allowed to do something, what do we call that specific restriction on their authority?
The answer is limited government. Defining exactly what a leader cannot do is the very essence of placing limits on governmental power, much like what the First Amendment does for us.
Okay, question 2. When Article 1 of the Constitution states that the House is composed of members chosen every second year by the people, which two core democratic ideas are interacting here? You have 8 seconds to figure this one out. Look closely at the text. It says members chosen by the people. We have the act of picking someone and the act of giving them the power to act for us. So what two ideas are linking up?
The answer is consent of the governed interacting with representative decision-making. By voting, the people are granting their consent for those specific elected members to represent them and make decisions on their behalf.
Section 6, Recap and Final Prompt. Let's wrap up this explainer with a quick summary and a challenge for you.
Our constitutional democracy relies heavily on the 5 interconnected ideas of consent, representation, separated powers, limits, and the rule of law. These principles aren't just isolated concepts, they're woven together as an interlocking system across the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. Ultimately, it is the rule of law binding everything together that ensures this whole setup functions fairly for absolutely everyone.
And here is a transfer prompt to leave you thinking today. If you were tasked with starting a brand new city from scratch today, which of those 5 core democratic ideas would you establish first and why?